back. It's another review here on Narcotic Casserole. Pardon me, I'm just a little fried. I'm coming off of MegaCon. It was awesome this year. Definitely handled it a lot better with the concourse. It was great. Good cosplay, good people. I was also doing the Orlando Fringe Festival, just wrapping up a great show. So it was a miracle that I was able to have time to actually watch a movie, and I did watch a movie. This time it was Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales. The Pirates of the Caribbean films, to me, I always had kind of just a natural, I guess they were kind of just naturally for me guilty pleasures, I guess you could say. My life wasn't changed by them, but at the same time, I really enjoy them every time I see them. I find myself putting them on every now and then when the mood takes me. I just seem to watch pure and simple for the spectacle value, for the entertainment value, and because of the fact that really when you think about it, there's no other film series like it. Even with all the pirate films that came out a long time ago and all the many adaptations of Treasure Island, I was about to say Treasure Planet, and why not? This particular installment has not failed me on that front. I still feel it's a thoroughly entertaining franchise. I still feel that as much enjoyment out of this as I've done ever since I first saw Curse of the Black Pearl. I suppose I'm more forgiving of it because of the fact that what it lacks in cohesion and even for that matter, well, let's face it, I guess you could say originality. It still seems to make up for it for the shamelessness of having a bit more fun. Is Dead Men Tell No Tales a step up or a step down? That's going to be relative, but I would say Dead Men Tell No Tales on the grand scheme, I'd say it's definitely better than At World's End and Dead Men's Chest. But for me, and I'm oddly enough one of the few who actually hold On Stranger Tides in higher regard, but I actually really enjoyed On Stranger Tides a lot more than some of the other installments. I actually put it, well, actually no, I'm not going to tell you. That's a different list on a different day. It seems in a fashion almost like they're trying to reboot the franchise, trying to take it back to a kickoff point with a brand new set of characters with Henry Turner and Carina, I believe her name is. Yes, Carina. Yeah. See, that's my point. That's where I think the faltering of this movie is. Now, on one side, if you wanted to take this movie as a wrap-up, I would actually be okay with taking this as a wrap-up if they didn't leave certain plot threads hanging. Well, one in the post-credit stinger, so if you want to just wrap it up right there, just leave before the post-credit stinger, but if you feel the need to want to keep watching it, God bless. So the big question, is Johnny Depp still giving it in this role? The funny thing is, it's hard to interpret, because on one side, you would imagine that he would be tired of doing this role, but at the same time, this is the same man who only just a couple months prior crashed the actual Pirates of the Caribbean attraction at Disney and did a full-blown amazing improv performance, and if I'm not mistaken, there is some footage of that particular incident. So it's hard to say. Captain Jack is still quintessentially Captain Jack. He's still a lot of fun. I still enjoy watching him, and I never felt once in the entire time watching it that I was ever bored with this character. As a matter of fact, I'd say because I revisit the movie so sparingly, it's one of those characters that I guess it is indicative of the entire franchise. If you want to go back, have a rum, if you want, and have a good time with it. Suffice to say, you will not be seeing any of these movies on my Cinema Schlock Society episodes, because honestly, considering them guilty pleasures, they're still a lot of fun, and this one is actually no exception. Another thing that really makes this one stand out, I wouldn't say it stands out, but the thing that makes this one definitely one with the rest of the films is that the visuals are par excellence. I would put the visuals on Captain Salazar right up there with the visuals on Davy Jones, and the ship. I'm sad that I don't remember the name of Salazar's ship, but the ship is pretty awe-striking the way it basically devours other ships. I mean, this is the one that actually seems kind of invincible compared to the other ones. So compared to the Flying Dutchman or the Queen Anne's Revenge. See, I remember those guys. So with that, I definitely felt the threat level of Salazar, and you definitely see the rage. And I think a lot of that may be attributed to Javier Bardem, his performances. I wouldn't say it was mind-shattering. It's definitely no Anton Chigurh or Raul Silva, but it was definitely what you'd want from Javier Bardem. And it seemed like the people orchestrating the visuals definitely seemed to work around him, and that made it work. I'd say the major weak link in this movie, I would actually say a lot of it. Now, you could say that would the deficiencies with the scripts in the prior movies, but this one honestly felt lackluster because this one actually was not written by Rossio and Elliott. This one was actually written by Jeff Nathanson. It kind of shows, whereas Elliott and Rossio seem to have a better grasp on humor, particularly in action spectacles. The first 4 Pirates films had great humor amidst the action, and of course, Mask of Zorro, the work they did on that is outstanding. This one definitely felt almost like he was writing what he thought he understood about the world of pirates. The humor felt a bit more forced, actually, oddly enough, a bit more adult, a bit more sexual, which, yeah, I mean, there are raunchy jokes in the previous ones, but they never felt as in your face or as overt. I mean, the only one I really enjoyed was how they kept misinterpreting Carina's love of astronomy, or her trade in astronomy, and making her think that she's talking about being a whore. And that was actually amusing because, of course, it was at the expense of these idiots who don't know what this particular vocation is. As far as the new characters go, oddly enough, they were there. They convey the plot. They were necessary. I'd say it maybe because the actors maybe weren't strong enough. I know one of them, Brenton Thwaites, he's an experienced actor. I've seen him in other stuff, and actually it was quite good. I just felt this, but oddly enough, I actually found him. It was appropriate that his character was kind of a block of wood because he is basically Will Turner's son. So like father, like son, I guess. I don't know. Carina, on the other hand, she seemed a bit overbearing at first. In the initial time I watched her, she seemed overbearing, but then it was explained to me, and it was actually clarified. It did kind of make sense why she had a bit of a chip on her shoulder. It's because here she is, she's an academic and she's a woman in a time when being a woman and an academic was basically right up there with pissing in the Pope's clothes. That's a weird ass image. Why did I do that? That definitely explained why she was a bit more headstrong and she was a lot more frustrated and she was a bit more justifiably holier than thou, because here you are, the smartest person in the room, and unfortunately the thing that seems to push people away is the fact that you have a vagina. There is another new character, which oddly enough, I thought he was going to be the new Norrington, and it's played by David Wenham, and he was one of the few really great things in Iron Fist, and I've always enjoyed seeing him whenever possible, so I was immensely let down by the fact that for some reason he was wasted. He contributes nothing. I mean, he was basically there to be the Norrington character, the figure of authority who's chasing down Jack and everybody, because that's what authority figures do, and they just kill him randomly, just off him in no time flat. And I was like, you see, at least the Spanish in On Stranger Tides, at least their contribution to the story actually affected something. He affects nothing in this movie, and it even makes a plot hole, a kind of a gaping plot hole, amidst another one I'm going to mention, where they're persecuting Carina because she's a quote unquote witch. They get on her, they're about to hang her for being that. Meanwhile, there's another witch character who basically insert Tia Dama knockoff here, and they basically just use her as a divining rod. And I'm like, I get her contribution in the beginning because she puts Barbossa on the scent, but oddly enough, you could cut her out entirely. You could just have Barbossa sailing high on life, and then he runs into Salazar. That would circumvent all that problem right there. It would be great. Even David Wenham, in all the bits he's pursuing Jack and all them in the beginning, that's totally fine, because he's doing what an authority figure do. You need kind of an antagonist, but even then, I wouldn't have cast David Wenham because he's too good an actor and too charismatic an actor to be remanded to just such a minor role. The other plot hole in this movie is the continuity regarding Jack's compass. Now, it was established in Dead Man's Chest that Jack's compass was given to him by Tia Dalma, but here there's a flashback, and it's a gorgeous flashback where you see young Jack Sparrow when he initially defeated Captain Salazar, where Jack has bequeathed the compass, and that's... Wait a minute. It doesn't make sense. Does not make sense. So, it's one of those things that it didn't occur to me at the time, because, of course, admittedly, the plotting on all the Pirates films is a bit convoluted to the point where you forget these things, but when you actually do remember it, it does not make sense. And it does kind of hamper certain aspects. I wouldn't say it destroys the flow of the story, but it does. It does kind of ruin the continuity as a whole. I can't really think of much else really to say about this film. The visuals are great. The action, I mean, if there's any place where the humor shines, it's actually in the action sequences, particularly in the opening, one of the early action sequences involving a guillotine was great. There's another one where apparently they picked up a whole bunch of the horses from Krull because those horses were able to pull an entire building and a safe, which I was like, did anyone actually want to consult some people on how this is even possible? I don't know. It was out there when I saw that happening. I was like, but then again, you know what? We didn't mind when Steve Martin latched up a church to a car, and for some reason the car was able to pull a church. I guess that's what they mean when they say horsepower. Who knows? But it didn't stop the action scenes from being very dynamic and a lot of fun. And overall, the visuals are insanely imaginative. Actually, the latter 30 minutes are gorgeous. From the minute they land on the island where they inevitably find Poseidon's trident is all gorgeously done. We didn't see it in 3D, but we've been told it is amazing to behold in 3D. One reason why I would say this one stands out among the other ones, and why definitely I would put it in a higher spot in the list, is that it actually, compared to the other films, this one actually really did a really good job bringing out some emotional spots, particularly in the latter points, and they really do it. Even for Will Turner and Elizabeth Swann, whose parts in the film are very brief, for some reason, everything that happens here seems to really make what we saw in the very end with those characters great. And I would say the one who really shined for this movie was Barbossa. But that's no surprise. Barbossa seems to shine in practically all the Pirates films, so that came as no surprise to me. I can't really think of much else to say. Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales is another solid entry. Well, solid, but by Pirates of the Caribbean standards. It's still, the franchise is still a lot of fun. I will probably buy this when it comes out because I had a great time watching it, in as much as I had the same way as I had a great time watching all of them. Me and the missus actually binged the entire franchise before watching this, and we still had a great time watching them. So it continues the trend. And if they make another one, awesome. If not, this was a good one to stop at. I'm going to give Dead Men Tell No Tales 3 helpings. Tell us what you think of the movie. Put it in the comment section. And if you like what we're seeing, just keep it here. Subscribe, like, share, subscribe on Narcotic Casserole. And just keep your eyes here. We will have more to come.